regular council meeting. We've got an agenda before you. Councillor Hibbs.
I'll move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you very much. Anyone has anything else to add or adjust? Very good. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. As you can tell, we do have a presentation for us before, this evening before us, Echo Lacombe Association. Manager Lapointe, would you care to do the introductions?
Absolutely. So I will be presenting to you Mr. Jared Reish. He is the president of the Echo Lacombe Association, and he'll take it from here. I believe you've met Jared before in the fall community presentations. If you weren't there, he'll do a fine job.
Thank you, Jared. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Right on. Thank you, everyone. You can hear me okay?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay, so we do have a presentation. I'm not sure if someone is going to be clicking the keys. Okay, right on. It's pretty simple, so hopefully you can follow along with where I am. It's pretty organized based on the slides. So, all right, so yeah, in line with the adoption of bylaw 480, Echo Lacombe Association is providing an update on its planned activities for the upcoming year. As we reviewed the council strategic plan and to complement the city's priorities, we compiled 4 strategic objectives: promoting economic growth, advancing Lacombe's economic diversity, maintaining and advancing Lacombe's high quality of life, and finally, stimulating business resiliency, which will be crucial post-pandemic, of course. Yeah, next slide, if you don't mind. All right. For promoting economic growth, we identified 3 primary tactics and deliverables. The first being celebrating business events, milestones, and successes. Our main avenue for this is through social media, as we have an active Facebook and Twitter accounts where we share, promote, highlight local businesses and their happenings. Number 2 is sponsoring networking events like Social Media Breakfast Lacombe. This could technically fall under the business resiliency section, as networking will be critical for reestablishing relationships post-COVID, but we left it here as an ongoing benefit for entrepreneurs. And in the case of Social Media Breakfast Lacombe, it provides practical peer-to-peer support. And number 3, stewardship of ongoing entrepreneurial support programs. These would include things like storefront enhancement grant, which is always oversubscribed for us, as well as the repackaged / rebranded business initiative fund that we have. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so for increasing our economic diversity, the group has tried to make decisions that set Lacombe apart. Those being, I guess I've got 4 of them. By encouraging the development of new amenities, we seek to spawn new economic opportunities. Past examples of something like that would be like the Echo Stage at Lest We Forget Park and world's largest fishing lure, and stuff like that. We would also like to see established groups and events and facilities continue to flourish. So that's why we've taken to sponsoring the Bamford House Kitchen, Light Up the Night, and just recently the Echo Energy Arena as well. I guess it's not recently, but you know, with COVID and everything, it's kind of recent, or hopefully that can be like an active sponsorship soon enough. And we have ramped up our efforts on social media in support of all things Lacombe, much as we could. And finally, we maintained our commitment to providing easy one-stop access to information for prospective businesses looking to make decisions about community and how their business can be developed. And that's basically through the community economic development microsite that we still have live. Right, next slide, please. All right, so of course, we want to spend time looking to improve Lacomb's quality of life. So our primary vehicle for this is Echo Energy and Echo Internet retailers, which provide funding for the vast majority of our activities. Right now, just for a technical update for everyone, we have 530 electricity customers, 440 natural gas customers, and 40 internet accounts, which is, we're super excited about that ramping up quickly. So we're estimating about 85,000 in new funds for 2021. And that will hopefully keep climbing as we get more internet customers. We have a new food rescue initiative currently under development. The goal here is to reduce food waste from grocery stores, restaurants, producers, offer tax benefits to local businesses, and offer nutritious food to those who may need it, food that would basically otherwise be put in the landfill. But we do have a presentation that I believe we're going to be presenting later at a different meeting for that. So look out for that. Our new community wellness program aims to try and kickstart local initiatives to improve Lacomians' mental and physical well-being. Some ideas that we have for this would be community garden type of thing, snow angels, any kind of new community activity like that can be kind of citizen-led, and we're actively looking for people's ideas on that sort of thing. We manage and adjudicate the Echo Fund to ensure those dollars are spent wisely and leveraged to their greatest capacity. There's always consideration given to, oh, sorry, I meant to say next slide one point ago, so I'm not matching the little diagrams anymore. Yeah, thank you. There's always consideration given to partnerships, and our board will explore opportunities to enhance the downtown beyond the scope of the DART committee. This could be anything like an art installation or collaboration on private land, something like that. And we will, of course, continue to seek opportunities to promote the city as a destination for tourism and cultural opportunities, whatever we can do to line up with that. All right, I think I've got one more slide left. All right, stimulating business resiliency. This year we focused on stimulating business resiliency in light of the economic downturn and impact of the pandemic. Just recently, we partnered with Sunny 94 to offer a radio advertisement subsidy program where participating businesses can piggyback off of our advertising spend to lower their costs. This program will allow those businesses to maintain exposure at a more affordable rate. There's more details I could explain another time if you were curious about how that worked. And also we have begun an investigation into launching a retail incubator. This would be a site where young or fledgling businesses could start in a shared flexible space, which would allow for cost savings on services like internet, utilities, stuff like that. Also, Echo would seek a partnership where a reduced lease rate could be made for short-term leases, allowing participants a chance to build a viable model before transitioning into a permanent business or permanent storefront type thing. I believe that's all I have. Let me know if you have questions or comments or clarifications needed. That's it.
Thank you very much, Jared. We appreciate it. You had said that you're always seeking public input on creative programs that Echo can become involved with. Perhaps you could let the public know how they can, or how best they can contact you.
Yes, absolutely. That's honestly, like, as funny as it sounds, one of our biggest challenges is getting people to give us feedback, ideas, and like we have money to spend. So, you know, whether it's like a random post on the Lacombe Facebook or something, we don't get too much traffic. So we're gonna try and figure out how to get more responses coming our way. So, but yeah, good point.
Council, any questions for Ms. Reish? We certainly appreciate your time and coming to speak with us tonight, and look forward to the next presentation that you suggested we might be expecting within the next month or so. Very good.
Yeah, right on. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
I see that we've got Manager Lapointe with us, which is good. If he's got anything to add on that presentation, certainly welcome to. And if not, we're going to continue on with item 5.1, the Economic Development Strategy. Manager Lapointe, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to provide a brief summary of what Jared just ran through, and I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards as well. This evening, Council is asked to receive the Echo Lacombe 2021 Community Economic Development Strategy as information. This strategy aligns with the newly established bylaw 480 that Mr. Reish alluded to, which states the city and Echo will annually develop additional mandates as required. As you recall from the presentation you just received, Echo has established the strategy by targeting 4 objectives, including promoting economic growth, advancing Lacombe's economic diversity, maintaining Lacombe's high quality of life standard, and stimulating business resiliency. To advance these objectives, Echo created several strategic priorities, including but not limited to managing and promoting Echo Energy, managing, promoting, and adjudicating the Downtown Storefront Enhancement Program, the new Echo Internet, they're looking to grow that, pursuing the radio co-op program through Sunny 94, advancing the food rescue initiative that you'll hear more about next meeting, I believe, supporting DART priorities outside of the current project scope, and exploring a micro retail incubator opportunity. Echo plans to review the strategy annually to ensure the strategic priorities remain relevant and timely. And finally, Echo will provide an annual progress report to Council during the fall community group presentations. With that, I'm open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Manager Lapointe. Go ahead, Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Guy, just a quick question. Have you looked at the Savannah drilling building for your, your micro retail opportunity?
We have not.
There.
Yeah, we have not, Councillor Gullickson, and I shouldn't say we. Echo has not looked at that site. There is a few other partners who have approached Echo to see if they're interested in partnering. So this is actually, to Mayor Creasy's point, this is something that's coming to us from the community as opposed to Echo actually reaching out.
Councillor Connick.
Just further to Councillor Gullickson's, I think that space is leased now.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but I don't think they're using
Oh,
the office.
I see where you're going.
It'd be a partnership with that business.
Okay.
Was there anything else, Councillor?
No, sorry.
Very good. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I would move that Council accept the Echo Lacombe 2021 Community Economic Development Strategy as information. And I just want to add that I'm really impressed with what's been happening with Echo Lacombe and the foundation, and like over the years of development, it's gotten a lot more sophisticated. I'm pretty excited about what I'm hearing in this report as far as what our possibilities in the near future, and I can only imagine what's coming next. So that's pretty exciting for our community, and it is unfortunate in some ways that maybe the community isn't aware of the good things, but hopefully just as more and more happens, more and more info gets out to the community, and they can just really truly understand and appreciate what is happening sort of on their behalf for them. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Manager Lapointe, you also suggested that ECHO will be presenting in the fall, I assume as part of the budget process. As much as I know that council would enjoy hearing from them, I'm just wondering if that's really the best time to showcase their work.
It's a fair point, I think, because they don't receive funds. Is that what you're saying, Mayor Creasy, at this point, that it might be better to come on another evening now?
Well, I think that it would certainly highlight them more appropriately, given that all the other ones are here, certainly to explain what they've done over the year, which is great, but it's primarily a funding request exercise is the gist of it for the majority of them. And I'm just wondering if their work might not get somewhat lost in that process. So I don't think it's anything we need to decide tonight, but I think that's a very real possibility that we might want to consider having them separately. That and the fact that there are several presentations already, and it can make for some lengthy evenings for council as it is. I'm just not sure that this will necessarily highlight them appropriately.
Yeah, and I actually wholeheartedly agree. I think that's a very good point. I think that bringing them on another evening would be a valuable exercise. And again, it gives more time to the other community groups who may need a little bit more time for questions as well. I just wanted to respond to one of your earlier questions that you asked, Mr. Reish. The best way to get a hold of anybody with ECHO, firstly, I'm always a contact. People can reach out to me, and I can certainly relay that information to the board. I would also say that they do maintain a website with all of their contact information on there, echolacombe.ca, and that is and all of their application forms for their various programs are housed on that website. So that is probably the easiest way to get in touch with somebody.
Thank you very much. I think the public would appreciate knowing that, and certainly if they call City Hall, they'll be directed in a similar fashion as well. Great. Anyone else? Very good. Let's move into the subdivision request actually, before we move on, did we not have a motion on the floor? Thank you. My brain's working just a little slowly. So we do have a motion before us. Given that I had nearly forgot of it, perhaps we could have Coordinator Pettibone just read back the motion in its entirety for us, please.
Certainly, Mayor Christie. The motion was made by Councillor Hibbs. And just give me a moment here to pull it up. I've got two computers going here still from the presentation. Here we go. Okay, the council accepts the ECHO Lacombe 2021 Community Economic Development Strategy as information.
Wonderful. Seeing no additional hands on the screen either, Cora's good. Very good. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. So item 5.2, once again, subdivision request for extension for the Trinity Crossing Phase 2. Craig Teal is here with Parkland Planning Services with us, I believe. Craig, are you on?
Yes, I am, Mayor Creasy.
Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So this RFD our request is before council to grant an extension of time for the Phase 2 Trinity Crossing subdivision that was approved in March of 2020. Seems not that far back. They created 28 residential lots, and the first year for them to complete the conditions and get it registered as land titles will expire, or has expired as of March 20th, 2021. And the developer, Laybon Homes, is now asking for an additional year, largely due to economic conditions in terms of bringing new lots on market and being able to start selling them and developing homes. There's been no change in policies that would warrant denying the request from administration's perspective. And the recommendation is to grant the extension of time for the subdivision approval until that March 2022 date, Mayor Creasy. Point out, this is certainly a type of decision that falls within council's authority under the MGA. Since preparing the RFD, we found that it is a function that's been delegated under the CAO bylaw. In the future, we'll be able to look at that as an option for dealing with some of these requests as well. Nonetheless, this one we did prepare and bring forward to council. Be happy to field any questions, Mayor Creasy and members of council.
Thank you, Mr. Teal. Appreciate that. Councillor Connick.
I would so move that, that council grant an extension of time for the subdivision approval given under file 66.250.03 bracket 19 to March 20th, 2022.
Thank you very much. Does anybody see any reason why we should not entertain this request? I don't think we'll belabor the point then. We'll go immediately vote if I don't see a lot of hands up. All those in favor? Mr. Teal, that was a relatively painless exercise that we're unanimously in favor of that. And I think I speak on behalf of council when I suggest that hopefully the economic conditions make it such that they are able to get on this sooner rather than later.
Yes, sir, Mayor Creasy. It's certainly more entertaining watching them get built.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And Director Peachy is with us. Oh yeah, there she is. Just as I look up on the monitor, make sure she's here. Item 5.4, temporary council chambers. Some of the public may not be aware that council has allocated some funds for some renovations here at City Hall over a couple of different areas. And obviously we've got some developments here that you'd like to go over. So the floor is yours, Director Peachy.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Before council tonight, administration is requesting that council selects a location for their temporary council chambers during the renovations that are to occur this summer. As passed in the 2021 capital budget, the council chambers and the downstairs washrooms are to be renovated this coming summer. To allow council to operate with minimal interruption, administration would like to start making arrangements to prepare the room for the required technology and equipment. Staff have reviewed 5 different locations for consideration: the Lacombe County Room at the Lacombe Memorial Center, the Lacombe Curling Club Lounge in the Gary Moe Auto Group Sportsplex, the Community Room number 2 above the Kinsman Aquatic Center, the Kinsman Room at the LMC, and 5404 56th Avenue building. All of these locations are within city facilities. However, the Lacombe Curling Club Lounge is the only one that is managed by a separate organization. There are 2 considerations when it comes to the financial impacts for each room. The first is the direct cost of setting up the room, and the second is the potential revenue loss that could occur if the room is dedicated as a council chambers. The direct costs are nil at the Community Room number 2, the Lacombe County Room, and the Kinsman Room at the LMC. To prepare these rooms for the required technology, the IT staff only need to pull an Ethernet cable to the respective room to connect to the city's computer network or make a change on a network switch. And there are network jacks currently in place that will allow the equipment to directly tie into the city's network once the wiring is completed. The Lacombe Curling Club does have a more direct cost, as they do require rent of $1,000 to commit the room to the city council. And because this section of the Gary Moe Auto Group Sportsplex building has no wiring to the city's computer network, there is a higher cost for cabling. The last building at 5404 56th Avenue has no services for internet, nor is it wired to the city's computer network. And there's more planning and setup that would be required. The IT department would need to purchase some equipment that would require an internet service provider to bring in the internet into the building. To set up a secured network in the building is estimated to cost approximately $10,000. There is also one unknown factor at this time, and that would be the cost to make the building accessible to allow the public to attend should COVID restrictions ease. The other financial implications are the indirect costs of potential revenue loss if a room is not available to rent. In speaking with the LMC manager, the Lacombe County room has more potential to be rented than that of the Kinsman room at the LMC. The Kinsman room has not been marketed for rentals over the last year and has no current bookings. To keep the room set up as a council chambers for the summer will have very little financial impact. However, the county room currently has 14 bookings to date between May 1st and September 30th. The community room above the Kinsman Aquatic Center has no bookings at this time either. However, it is used for a training facility and a viewing area for the pool when the COVID restrictions are eased. One comment that was passed on to me about that room is that it does get quite noisy if there is a public swim that is occurring at the time. Though the revenue loss would be minimal if council were to select this room. The city would not recognize any revenue loss if council selects the Lacombe Curling Club Lounge, and the 5404 56th Avenue building has no rental prospects at this time. Therefore, there is no rental loss implications there. The criteria that administration used to gauge the appropriateness of a location was the following. It was the space to social distance, access to the city's computer network, sound quality of the room, privacy for in-camera discussions, accessibility for the public, ability to place our flags and city banner within the room, access to refreshments, and janitorial services. In the memo, there is a table that is attached that summarizes the findings of how each of these criteria measures to each room. All of council's current furniture and accessories will be moved to whatever selected location there is. Of the 5 locations, administration recommends the Kinsman room at the LMC for the temporary council chambers. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Piche. So you mentioned there was 14 bookings. Which room of the LMC was that for? For the proposed one or for the county room?
For the county room is the 14 bookings.
Okay. I'm assuming that's one of the primary determining factors between the 2 rooms proposed at the LMC then?
That is, yes.
Very good. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I would move that council select the Kinsman room at the LMC as a temporary council chambers location during renovations. It does seem to be the most obvious choice.
Thank you. Anyone else have any input, possible issues with that location? Very good. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you, Director Piche. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
CEO Gowdy.
I believe there was an item 5.3 with the regional subdivision and appeal development and appeals board. I just want to make sure that wasn't missed.
No, the reason I skipped that over is I didn't see Director Thompson online, but he is now, so I can do both of his at once. That was the only reason, but I appreciate you bringing that up. Director Thompson?
Very good. Thanks, Mayor Creasy, and good evening, Council.
Thank you. I was just wondering, did you want to go through with 5.5 or are you going to start with 5.2 or 5.3 rather?
I thought I would start with the regional SDAB if that is okay with you and Council.
5.3, absolutely. Thank you.
At its regular meeting on October 26, 2020, Council directed administration to pursue a regional subdivision development and appeal board agreement with Parkland Community Planning Services. To that end, administration is asking for Council to consider first reading of a regional intermunicipal subdivision and development appeal board bylaw number 488 tonight. The bylaw establishes for the city a regional SDAB with 18 other participating municipalities and delegates SDAB authorities to the regional board. It also establishes an administrative committee, also managed by PCPS, authorized to establish qualifications and expectations for regional SDAB members and the power to appoint members, among other things. PCPS Regional SDAB is in its third year of operation, and PCPS is the SDAB administrator for 18 municipalities so far. The annual cost to join the PCPS Regional SDAB is $480 per year, which includes providing clerk services. Clerks provide the administrative and logistical support to the regional board in accordance with the MDA. The cost of each appeal is then charged back to the city on a cost recovery basis, estimated to be between $3,000 and $6,000 per appeal, and the city sees typically about 3 appeals per year. The city also approached the county about forming a regional SDAB. The county has confirmed that there is a pathway to providing partial SDAB services to the city of Lacombe. The county proposed to manage the organization and training of a qualified pool of board members, but it requires the city to provide the clerk services, such as receiving notices of appeal, coordinating and holding appeals, and issuing decisions made by the SDAB. This arrangement is not recommended by administration because there is considerable value in delegating clerk services to PCPS, who manages many more appeals per year than the city, allowing them to more efficiently and effectively manage those functions. For tonight, administration is asking council for first reading of the regional SDAB bylaw number 488.
Thanks, Director Thompson. Councillor Gullikson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll move that council gives first reading to the regional intermunicipal subdivision and development appeal board bylaw 488.
Thank you, so noted. Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I know we're just doing first reading tonight, but if I may, I just have a few questions if I could.
As long as they're about process in general, if not, we'd support. If they're related to items involved with it, then it should really come to the floor.
Sure.
I'll let you decide which they are.
Yes.
If you're okay with going to first reading first, okay. Anyone else?
Mayor Creasy, if I may, yes. Craig Teal is still on the line, so if there is a specific question, it may also be a good time to ask of Craig as well, if it's more technical regarding the SDAB itself.
We certainly appreciate that. I think we were just going to move to get it on the floor through first reading first, but we appreciate that, and certainly Councillor Connick may have some questions that perhaps could be better fielded by Mr. Teal. Chief Gowdy.
I wanted to point out that it would be an option for council, should you wish to discuss Councillor Connick's or any other councillors' questions or comments tonight. You can simply move to second reading at this evening's meeting. That's still well within your procedural bylaw. Proceed through those questions and have third reading at a subsequent meeting.
Very good, thank you. So if there's no additional input, all those in favor for first reading? That is unanimous, thank you. Councillor Connick.
Well, I'd like to do second reading, just get those, I think it's a good idea with Mr. Teal here. So I also move that council gives second reading to the regional intermunicipal subdivision development appeal board bylaw 488. And on that note, sorry.
Yep.
And then if I could just ask a few questions, that would be awesome.
Sure.
So just one clarification. So this regional board already exists, correct, Director Thompson? Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. And so then we would naturally be added to that. So what the current members that sit on SDB now, the members of public that we have today, would they then go straight to that committee, or that they would be dropped and we'd be looking for new members, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Effectively, the passage of this bylaw repeals the city's current SDAB bylaw and dismantles the board. And so those members on the current city SDAB board would no longer be a member of any SDAB board associated with the city of Lacombe. And so but I did talk to Mr. Teal about this, and he advised me that they are looking for, or they are constantly looking for qualified board members to serve on the regional board. And certainly members who have received SDAB training are looked at favorably. And so we would, following passage of this bylaw, we would reach out to those members and advise them of the process to apply to the regional SDAB board with PCPS.
Okay, if I may.
Sure.
And so then there's no elected officials, is that correct then, anymore?
Certainly that was the council's direction, to not have a councillor on the SDAB. So no, there would not be any elected officials.
No, that's fine. I think that's actually, I actually really like this. I think this is great that we have this regional board and it can draw on a much bigger body to handle these appeals. And so if this new member or the direction comes out from this regional subdivision appeal board looking for new members, are those members, like, are other committees vetted through this council, or they go straight through the regional board there, or through PCPS?
So I think by entertaining this type of arrangement, this would effectively remove council's input. That is a completely separate board ran by the Parkland.
No, that's what I was asking. I just wanted to make sure that we're not going to see that anymore, correct?
Correct, yes,
Okay.
yes. There's an administrative committee that establishes the qualifications of the board members, and that committee, which is managed by PCPS, would be the one soliciting and appointing members to the regional SDAB board, not the City of Lacombe Council.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
And currently that board is serving 16 or 18 other communities as well?
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor Creasy.
Anyone else? Councillor Jameson.
Sure, I'll just speak to it. I spoke to this at length back when this came up previously, but as Councillor kind of mentioned, I'm highly in favor of this. I've had 3 experiences with SDAB in my career as a developer. One of them was a loss, one of them was a win, and one of them I'll call a draw. But I can tell you that the most frustrating thing from a developer's point of view going to SDAB is not necessarily not succeeding, but when the issue you're presenting is clearly not even being grasped because of the professionalism of the committee that's discussing it. So to have a regional board that has a large talent pool to draw from, that has that training and puts it in a much better position to succeed in terms of understanding the issue and applying proper development law and principles is a much better, fairer, and professional way to go. So I am definitely highly in favor of this motion.
I think we want to suggest that our SDAB has not been professional in the past, but I think that this certainly does make it a more equitable process throughout the region for sure.
To be clear, if I may, it's not always been SDABs in this municipality that I've attended.
And that's why I brought it up. So thank you very much for clarifying that. Anyone else? Very good. All those in favor of second reading? Thanks, everyone. That was unanimous as well. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So as highlighted in number 3, that it is optional that we do third reading to, rather than to move forward and have it not appear in another future agenda. I'd like to move that council gives third reading to the regional intermunicipal subdivision and development appeal board, bylaw 488.
Oh,
I believe, Mayor Creasy, if I may, we first have to deal with a motion to give 3 readings in one meeting, and then we would proceed to the third reading if that's passed.
My apologies.
thank you, Coordinator Pettibone. Certainly, I appreciate your reasons for wanting to do 3. I'm just wondering, given that it does have some impact on our community, and certainly the ones that are on that board. I'm just wondering if we, in this instance, might not want to consider leaving it for a future date to receive some public input.
Okay, that's fine.
I certainly do appreciate your wanting to have it dealt with while it's current in everybody's mind, but I guess to deal with it one way or another, we should probably put forth a motion to consider adjusting our rules to consider for third reading.
I'll rescind that keep it simpler.
Yeah, in this instance, there's really nothing to rescind because it wasn't out of order anyway, but if in fact you think that it ought to be considered tonight, then that would be the route to go, is to have it. Okay. Anyone else? Director Thompson, would you care to carry on with the Michener Park commercial project update for us?
I certainly can, and thank you. Administration has identified another opportunity to expand the city's commercial tax base in redeveloping the southwest quadrant of 50th Avenue and 63rd Street, that intersection, for highway commercial use. Administration seeks council's endorsement tonight to draft for council's approval the necessary land use amendments to prepare the land for sale to a commercial developer. The proposed site is 1.72 acres, and administration estimates the market value of that site is between $500,000 and $600,000. Preparing the site for land sale will cost an estimated $270,000, including a traffic impact assessment, amendments to the MDP and LUB, surveying, and off-site servicing construction to make the site development ready. Developing the site as proposed will expand the city's commercial tax revenue by an estimated $17,750 per year at full build-out. As a proactive public engagement measure to gauge early support or opposition to the redevelopment, administration invited all landowners and business operators within 60 meters of the proposed commercial site. In addition, administration invited the Lacombe Farmers Market and the Lacombe Minor Baseball Association to comment on the concept of redeveloping the site. We received one written response from a landowner who neither supported nor opposed the proposal, but highlighted a historical agreement between the province and the town that administration will address during the subdivision process. Another opportunity for public comment on the development will occur during the legislated public hearing required to make the necessary land use amendments. In addition, the subdivision must be referred to the Municipal Planning Commission as per the land use bylaw, so the public may comment at MPC at that time as well. Administration will likely request first reading of the MDP and LUB amendments in the first meeting of May. And assuming a regular timeline with no outside delays, the subdivision may be registered and the land listed for sale in August of 2021. So it is our recommendation tonight that council directs administration to proceed with the bylaw amendments and subdivision to prepare Michener Park commercial site for sale.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So you stated that you did not receive any other letters opposing, as I've had some conversations with Minor Ball that they were not in favor, so they did not respond negatively?
Correct. Yeah, we didn't receive any written responses regarding a proposal from them at this stage.
Okay, thank you. So will this go through, all due respect, the Recreation and Culture Board as to what their may have feedback as well, or that's to be at a later date?
Certainly the next stage regarding the public hearing would not specifically invite the Recreation and Culture Board for comment, but we can ensure that the board is aware of the next steps and then invite them to comment at the public hearing when it is proposed. Or if council would like to have their comments in advance of moving to the next step, certainly we can invite their comments specifically and bring that forward to council.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Koenig.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. When we talked about this before, we've all been in the farmer's market, and we all know that the parking comes down into that area, especially when it gets busy. And we had talked about how one way to improve that area and that site was to pave the area where the farmer's market is now. Is that still something being considered? I don't see it in these costs here, but would that be something we'd be doing as well to improve that existing area for the farmer's market, and then to that end further enhance the parking, or no?
The intended proposal would be to prepare the land for sale to a commercial developer who would presumably develop probably some kind of strip mall or commercial bay lease unit arrangement that would certainly include a paved parking lot on the site. And so there would be a paved parking lot, and certainly as the city is the one selling the land, we can craft some conditions allowing for the shared use of that parking lot for the public parking during the farmers market or other events. But in terms of developing the site and retaining ownership of it as a parking lot by the city, that is not the current proposal, Councillor Koenig. But certainly it's one that's could be worth exploring with council's direction.
That's not the question.
Chief Gotti.
I believe that Councillor Connick's desire would be for, if there is any link between this and a potential paving of the east-west portion of the Missioner parking lot paving. We have not currently had that link. There is no capital plan right now or budget to pave that parking lot, but that was one of our intents of getting this in front of you, was to, now that we've gotten a little bit further information, we can give you a rough estimate of how much money would be left for that project if you wanted to. And we'd certainly be happy to develop an estimated cost to see what that would look like in terms of paving, or what a full paving of that would look like if council would desire.
Councillor Koenig, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to see that. I think that was kind of what we had talked about, was that I'm not opposed to this idea. And of course, I fully expect them to incorporate parking into their, but I'm worried about how we've all been in the farmer's market. We know people park, that whole stretch can be full of cars. And we know, I'm pretty sure we talked about how if they'd be better utilize that east-west strip and paved it, that perhaps we could do different things with parking and accommodate more vehicles. And so I think the two kind of go hand in hand a little bit. I think we need to just explore what it would cost to do that, because otherwise I think we're going to run into a bit of trouble there when we try to do this. I think parking will become a significant issue for the farmers market, and I think paving it would, or some sort of, would help with it. So I'd like to see that anyways.
Thank you. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I agree with that. I think that the paving that would be kind of a bonus for everybody, the ball diamonds, everybody concerned, because this is actually going to hurt them a little bit if we do this. I think the information I've got from different ball players and so on is that there's a lot of foul balls that go over that fence and out into that area. So I think when we're designing that, and the people that design it would certainly have to be aware of that issue. I like the idea also, but I do believe that the paving would be something that would give something to everybody that uses that area.
For myself, that was one of the primary reasons for entertaining this development, was to, as a means to facilitate paving that east-west area and enhancing it for all the users. I agree with Councillor Koenig that this is certainly not going to eliminate parking issues there. And in as much as I'm thankful that we've got a successful farmer's market there. I think there needs to be some creative thinking there. Maybe they can come up with some sort of a way of a shuttle service, something similar to what's done at Pinoka Stampede, perhaps on a smaller scale, and taking people back and forth to the area to the south where there is substantially more parking. It's just not practical for people to be carrying produce and that type of thing for great distances, but that might be that actually might be a draw to the market overall, would be one idea. But I think that by paving this, it does just increase the profile of the farmers market for those weekends of the year when it is being used, but certainly adds every other day for the sports use of the area too. So I would be all in favor of it, but it will be interesting to see some numbers and see how we can make that happen, because that's a substantial area, and I too would like to see some numbers for development of that side street or parking area, whatever we want to call it. And was administration anticipating some sort of a motion to that effect, or is the direction you received this evening sufficient to bring it back for council's consideration?
So I think that we can look at getting some high-level costs from our engineering consultants in our normal course of work, and get back to you with some information closer to your capital budgeting exercises, and you'll be able to make the decision then with the full information before you.
Very good, thank you. Councillor Hibbs?
That's okay, Mayor Creasy. I was willing to make that motion because regardless, I think we still want this to come. I still think we want the public to be able to have their chance at, a public hearing, et cetera, et cetera. So I would be willing to make that motion if that's okay, that the one that's listed here, that council direct administration to proceed with the bylaw amendments and subdivision to prepare Mitchener Park commercial site for sale. And that direction includes the discussion, obviously, that we've just had now as far as further information that we will require and probably the public will want as well. So I'll just put that on the floor if that's okay.
Very good, thank you. Yes, the one, albeit a small item, the one I was curious about was in preparation of potentially having some land sale. There was a traffic flow study, and I'm just curious, how is it that we can perform that function prior to sale when we don't really know what necessarily would be destined for these locations? And that's a fairly sizable property. So without knowing what type of traffic demands that there are from those businesses, how is it that we can have a proper assessment done of the traffic?
So you would be required to, or either the city or the owner at the time of development would be required to look at those traffic impact assessments. Typically that is done by the developer at the time of development for exactly the reasons you've highlighted, that for the city to pre-do the traffic impact assessment without the knowledge of what might be developed there would be very costly and not actually really a very efficient way to do it. But that will be a condition of development on this lot, that they look at those traffic impact assessments. Fortunately, in this case, of course, there is an existing set of lights at the major intersection that would be handling this. So I suspect it will be an acceptable level of service, but that would be a requirement prior to development.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything to add to that, Director Thompson? I saw your hand up. I just would.
No, nothing to add. Thank you, Mayor Creasy.
Very good. Anyone else before we entertain the motion? I don't see any, so I will call the question. All those in favor? And I believe that was unanimous as well. Thanks, everyone. Chief Gotti, we've got you as next for presenting the disaster recovery program changes. I know that's been a fairly hot topic provincially, and thankfully far more pressing in some communities than perhaps it is in ours, although it's certainly of interest. So if you could lead us through that item, please.
Well, thank you. That was actually a great summary. But I will go through my executive summary here at the least. But the mayor is absolutely correct. This item is being presented so that council is aware of some of the issues that we face with some of your municipal partners, not Macomb County specifically, but other partners within the province. It is fortunately not a major impact here in the city of Macomb, thanks to the good work of past councils and administration who have largely limited development within the floodway. So announced in the recent provincial budget were significant changes to the disaster recovery program. A high level of these summary of these changes is that funding will be limited to 90% of eligible disaster costs, whereas they're currently 100% today, with the remaining 10% to be covered by the applicant, which could be a private entity or a municipality. There are some schools of thought around the province that some private homeowners would be looking to recover the 10% that they would be responsible for from the municipality that approved the development within the floodway, if that were the case. And of course, I'm largely focusing on floods because that's a major cost in the province, but fires and other natural disasters are covered as well and subject to these same changes. So funding will be limited to 90% of eligible disaster costs. Funding will be limited to $500,000 per residential address for homeowners, and funding will be limited to a single approval per property, regardless of transfer of ownership. It is unclear at this time what happens if a land is subdivided or consolidated after it's been eligible or received funding through this program, whether that would reset its eligibility or not, but I suspect no. That doesn't seem to be the intent of what the province is attempting to resolve here. And so what they are attempting to resolve, of course, is that there is significant development within the floodway in the province of Alberta. I did give a link to the province's flood zone floods portal. And if you're interested, I would encourage you to look at some of the communities that are subject to flooding, including Calgary, High River, Drumheller. In many instances, properties that will be affected by these changes are not sort of overlooking the river. They may be blocks away from the river. And so those homeowners, I think there's a good argument to be made that they were not acting cavalier or irresponsible when they acquired those properties, that in many instances, I say, maybe hundreds of meters away from the river, not riverside. That is the potential negative impact of this change, is that overall, it will reduce the responsibility and liability of Albertans to cover natural disasters due to floodway development. There are specific homeowners who will be disproportionately affected, arguably to some degree based on perhaps a desire to live in a floodway, but I think in many instances with no responsibility themselves. To use an example, if you were to look at the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo or Fort McMurray, the $500,000 limitation will in many cases be far below the property value to begin with. They will then only be eligible for 90% of those costs. And of course, as soon as they're flooded a single time, that property becomes almost worthless, even if it is rebuilt in the same spot. Because if you have $1 million home, it's flooded once, and you're looking to buy that home knowing that it is likely to flood again within the next 5 to 25 years, what would be your interest in that property knowing that it is not eligible for any disaster recovery program? I would argue that the value of that home, the true value, becomes actually worth less than the labor and materials to build the property. And so one of the things that is unclear yet about these change regulations is that traditionally, when properties were flooded and I'm using the flood, but again, it could be fire, it's an equal example. They would be built on the same lot, and the recipients would be eligible to receive the value of the structures constructed in that lot. And from what I have seen, it is actually a sort of a very base version of the structure that was there before. So most people who've received this funding would tell you it's not 100% funding. They don't, if you have hand scraped hardwood, they may replace it with basic hardwood or even laminate or engineered hardwood. With the change, with the potential changes now, those property owners, if they're not eligible for compensation related to the lot itself, so that they could reconstruct in a new spot that wasn't subject to floodway regulations, then they will only get a fraction of what that property was worth. So again, looking at my $1 million regional municipality with Buffalo example, the property is made up, the property value is made up of the base property value as well as the home that's constructed on it. And so a $1 million property may actually be composed of a $250,000 lot and a $750,000 home. So if the traditional model is followed, that individual, in this case, would be offered $500,000 because that's the minimum, 90% of $500,000, so $450,000. However, it becomes more of a problem for those homes that maybe are under the $500,000. So using, say, a home in Lacombe with a $400,000 value, that lot value might still be $200,000 or $175,000 with a home value of $225,000. Now, if the province offers you only to rebuild at the current location or 90% of the $225,000 structure value, which is what they have traditionally done, you are almost forced to rebuild in that same location, knowing full well that your home doesn't have the value it once has. So there has actually, since I wrote this for council, the AUMA has released a briefing note, which you may have seen on the same topic, and then the Alberta Council has scheduled a webinar to look through some of these details. There is a lot of uncertainty right now about how things will be applied, but I expect it will be a topic of some interest in the province over the next year or so. And I would say there are some municipalities who have residents in them who could potentially be negatively impacted, a large number of residents. So it will be an issue that faces some of your municipal colleagues very, very poignantly. If you are interested in further information and didn't see that briefing note from the AUMA or didn't get the information from the Alberta Council on the impacts and how to attend the webinar to find out more, please let me know. They are having the Minister of Disaster Recovery attend to answer questions, and so it may be of interest. Sorry, that is the extent of my presentation this evening.
Appreciate it, Chief Gowdy. Certainly going to make for some interesting debate, and regardless of how it turns out, it's certainly going to cause people to hopefully examine where and what they build, because it's going to have some pretty harsh impacts on lots of areas throughout the province for sure. Anybody care to accept his information? Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll move that we accept the report as information.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from anyone? All those in favor? Thank you. It's unanimous, I believe. Chief Cuddy, we're into the information portion. Do you care to do your report?
Yes, I would. A little bit of computer trouble here, so.
Not a problem. We can give you a moment with that and move on to some others. If you'd prefer.
Actually, I have it back up here, and so I'm happy to go through.
Very good.
There were 30 active cases, community cases of COVID-19 at the time of this report, but of course, you're probably aware there's 41 now in the community, so that is a fairly rapid acceleration of cases in the community, although it is a small sample size to start with. We continue to hold regular meetings to address the evolving restrictions and local situation. You may be aware that the province announced a delay to the potential change to stage 3 this afternoon. And I think that was somewhat predictable because their original metrics were 300 cases of hospitalization and falling. And of course, we're 288 rising or something like that. So I think that actually is fairly consistent with what they've been saying. And there's no identified timeline for stage 3 at this time. Our ECC is not activated. Also, city facilities are open for select activities permitted by provincial restrictions, and those vary between our different facilities. Collective bargaining with the Lacombe Police Association was nearing completion at the time of writing this report, and you'll be reviewing a report on that in camera this evening. I did have the opportunity to meet with the Parkland Airshed Management Zone representatives, and they will be presenting to council some information about their activities and historical service to Lacombe in May. The first draft of an IT service level agreement with LPS is being developed. This is something we haven't actually been able to find comparable processes or agreements, and so we're having to draft it from scratch, which is actually it's an interesting experience, but it has taken some time. We'll be meeting with Lacombe County to discuss a path forward for the fire services review. Now that we are nearing a finalized draft, that will be presented to the council in April as well. Meter replacements are underway for failed meters. We are awaiting final construction of our testing bench, and then we'll be beginning to test those failed meters to see if we can ascertain a common failure mechanism. Year-end reporting and audit is underway for the city, regional utility commission, the library, and other agencies that we perform the audit or manage the audit function for. I've also included building permit values for both year-to-date permits as well as past historical year-to-date and total year permits for your comparison. This is an internal report that we've been using for some time, and we thought we would start including it in the council mailbox just for your own interest. Feel free to share it with whoever you want, of course. And that is my report for this meeting.
Thank you. Touched on some of the COVID-related numbers, and given that we've opened that door, I think it's important for people to appreciate the type of information that AHS provides to the municipality. While that, when a person looks at strictly a percentage, that seems like a drastic increase. Certainly not one that anyone chooses to see, but I think the residents need to understand that we don't necessarily receive information other than exactly what they see as far as overall numbers as to the specific origin, unless it is a rather large outbreak confined to a specific entity, a business, or whatever it may be. We really don't hear about it. I expect probably for privacy-related concerns and that type of thing, but we have had a little correspondence from some people curious as to the origin of this latest increase, and not necessarily sure it would help us in addressing it anyway, but we simply do not have that information to give out. It does not exist from our standpoint. Is that a fair summation, Chief Cuddy?
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, unfortunately, we don't have additional information that we're able to share at this time.
Councillor Boats.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. A couple of questions regarding the meter replacement program. Have letters been sent out to everybody now?
Yes, they have.
Okay, so they've all received that, and they're all being billed for water now too, is that correct?
Yes, water and sewer.
And on flat rates? Or estimated rates?
Estimated rates, so estimates of the lost value. And as we discussed, there's a semantics issue, but your bylaw only requires the recovery of past flat rate estimated billing, not current consumption, and so we are retroactively billing. But it essentially accomplishes the same function as you.
Okay, so they're being billed now for the water, but not the lost revenues prior to December, is that correct?
Correct. We actually, it's not entirely correct because of what I had just described, that you are billing them. Your utility bylaw only requires you to bill estimated use from the past. And so the way we're estimating it is a lump sum that has been used, that there's a certain minimum. And so we're charging that on a small monthly rate. You will have an opportunity to look back at possibly recovering a larger amount from the pre-December numbers that we talked about. So right now they're being charged a small monthly portion towards that amount is how
Okay,
it works.
so it's towards the whole 2-year period then for some of them?
1 year.
1 year. So the 1 year is lost for sure. The first year, if it started in 17.
Yes.
Yeah, those are lost. It's just last year's billing that we're dealing with.
Correct.
For 1 year. Okay. All right, thanks.
And also, I think we were given an estimate for a time frame for a third party to replace the meters.
Yes.
8 to 12 weeks, something like that.
Yes, but that was a few weeks ago, so I suspect we are more in the range of 8 weeks now.
Very good. So I just wanted, just driving home the point that in fact it is underway and completion of that is imminent.
Yes.
Very good. So go ahead, Councillor Goldson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Sorry about that. The amount that we allocated for that, do you have, is that enough?
50,000.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe it will be enough. It depends on how many of those meters that we suspect may be reusable. If there was, in some cases, a resident has responded and said, actually, my home's vacant, I can show you that. And so I think it will be enough, but it is sort of right around that 45 to 60,000. Having said that, we do some meter replacements every year. So you do have a line item for meter bodies that we'll be able to access if we need a few more $100 or $1,000 to get a few more meters.
Okay, because the meters you indicated they might cost like $100 a piece or something like that at one point?
I think they're more than that. But
More than that, so that would be more than the $50,000, right?
correct. So we have been attempting to resolve some of them ourselves. And again, if they are responding to us and saying, actually, here's a valid reason why I would have consumption, genuine consumption or 3 cubic meters, then we aren't having to access those homes.
So are you finding that that's a lot of meters? It's probable. My feeling would it be only like 5%, maybe at best.
I would say closer to 30.
30% of them are saying they're vacant and not using any water.
No, 30% haven't said, but that's our estimate of what it could be as high as. Many of these homes may be in newer subdivisions and they may only have a single occupant or be under construction. And so we're certainly aware that a percentage of them, as I say, our staff have estimated that may be as high as 30% that could be genuinely using water.
That would be wonderful if it was. That would be really good because it'd save, it'd be a lot of savings for us.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's hope it's that high.
Councillor Conick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So on the development permit chart there, I was just curious. there's something happening up at the college. Is that the high school in the corner there? And would that be an institutional permit for last year?
I believe that is an institutional permit for this year, actually. But I can certainly find that information out for you and let you know when the permit was issued for that high school.
Well, I just see some more things going on up there. I thought that's probably it, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I suspect so.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So under your last administrative meeting with the Macomb County to discuss path forward for a fire services review, will we then have a fire services agreement with the county, or because Black Falls and Macomb, City of Macomb have not signed a fire services agreement, or have not signed off from their proposed binder of an agreement?
I believe that what you're referring to is the policy manual that Macomb County has requested its partnering agencies sign
So that's
off.
separate.
That is separate. You do have, you have multiple, in many cases, conflicting fire services agreements with Macomb County right now, executed. And so one of the agreements coming from your ICF and IDP committee, as well as this fire services review, is the consolidation and execution of a new master fire services agreement between Macomb County and the City of Macomb.
Okay, thank you.
So it's forthcoming.
Right,
This would lead to that.
correct, that's my point.
Go ahead, Chief Cuddy.
I just wanted to respond to Councillor Connick's question earlier. When I review these building permit values, I actually suspect that what we referred to at the high school there is actually the institutional construction in 2020, because that value would be much more in line with my expectation. But I will find that information out and get back to you.
Yeah, so, yeah.
That actually is the council mailbox item. Up next is the building permit report. Any additional questions or concerns on that? Was there any other highlights with that report, Chief Gowdy? Okay, fairly self-explanatory. Councillor Hoekstra, any concerns or questions? Very good. So we'll move down to 6.3 for the Commission Board and Committee reports and minutes from the Parkland Regional Library. Any questions for Director Juke? Go ahead, Councillor Connick.
Sorry, who is our representative on this? Is it you, Councillor Ross?
Yes, it
That's
is.
correct.
Actually,
Chief Cuddy?
it is now Director Juke, because council did elect to no longer designate a member of council, but have an administrative staff fulfill that role instead.
Ah, so that's why I can't find Councillor Ross on the attendees then. Very good then.
I didn't realize that had been implemented already. Thank you for that. That was retroactive then as of the decision.
Actually, the way the Parkland Regional Library terms lined up, it made for a great transition point very, very shortly after council had made that decision. So a couple of months back, actually.
Very good. Director Juke, was there any specific developments with the regional library system that you wanted to bring to our attention or highlight this evening?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I think I'll just point out that they have now posted on their website a virtual tour of the new building. They had hoped to do a grand opening and obviously walk people through, but that not being possible, they have posted something that works much like a realtor virtual tour of a home. You can go in and then move yourself around through the different built rooms and so on. And it's quite something. They're very proud and very happy.
Good, thank you. So we have other commission minutes, I don't believe. I have no written report at this time. Councillor Gullickson?
I have no written report either at this time.
Councillor Ross?
Yes, Mayor Creasy, I'll just announce that the Culture and Tourism Board has hired a new coordinator and will be hopefully made public this week from out of town. So we're very excited for that moving forward. Lacombe Days, we are also looking for any new coordinators. Some very unfortunate circumstances came forward, and that will be posted publicly, and we will advertise it through the assistance of the city that we will need that dealt with as soon as possible. So, and construction for the Lacombe Airport will start June 7th, I think, for the new runway. So that's going to be a lot of significant construction there for improvements for the regional airport.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Ross? Councillor Jacobson? Thank you. Councillor Hoekstra?
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I have nothing to add to my written report.
Any questions for that report? Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. My report is there. I will note that I did miss off one item. I also did attend the provincial budget webinar on the 26th, but minor. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than willing to answer, but otherwise it's all there.
Thank you. And Councillor Connick?
No report at this time.
Again, I think that is all the information that we have in that section. Our favorite motions, please, someone. Who's first?
I'll take
Councillor Gullickson.
I'll move that we accept the information as information.
Very good. All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. And our previous minutes from March 8th. So we had an opportunity to review those. Any questions or revisions? Councillor Hoekstra?
Under the area where it's a speed zone safety review, I believe I made that motion that council received the speed safety assessment proposal as information, not Councillor Gullickson.
I could make that correction.
And does anybody else remember that way as well? Is that correct? Councillor Gullickson, fine. Yeah. Thank you for that, Councillor Hoekstra. Anyone else? We can have a motion for acceptance as revised. Councillor Hoekstra?
I move we accept the minutes as amended.
Thank you. All those in favor? Very good. And on to notices of motion. Councillor Ross, let's start with the speed-related 8.1, please.
Thank you. I would make a motion to direct administration to provide other options to accomplish strategic objective 4.5.3C, review safe speed limits in the community using internal resources. As I think we have some great options within our organization and different departments, including Lacombe Police Service, in my opinion, to just bring information forward back to council.
Thank you.
Go ahead to 8.2.
Certainly.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I would like to direct administration to implement no parking zones adjacent to the Canada Post community mailbox locations identified in a letter from Mrs. Kimberly Sawyer, included in request for information number 371 that was provided to council. Further information will be provided by Canada Post and HR, be more specific to information of each site that they identified from that query 371.
Chief Gotti, you've got both notices of motion there. When would be a reasonable time frame for expectation of additional information for either of these?
I believe your procedural bylaw actually requires us to bring them to the next meeting, and so we've been gearing up to have any information or as much as we can at hand. I have discussed both of the motions with Councilor Ross, and so I believe I have a good understanding of their intent if directed to execute them by council.
Thank you.
We'll go to the first meeting in April.
No, and that's a fair enough comment. I guess I was mostly referring to the first one, is the speed-related item. Are you confident that you can have some kind of appropriate level of information for us for the next meeting?
Yes, I believe we will, because if the motion is passed, we will have time, the motion is to provide options, and so we will have some time after that to develop some more options, although we have been talking about those already, so we do have some ideas of how we might go about that.
Very good.
And what it would take to do so.
Okay, thank you. And our next meetings, the first two are regular meetings, both at 5 p.m. on Monday, April 12th, and then April 26th. And then a committee meeting is scheduled for, once again, 5 p.m. on May 10th. I'll put those in our calendars, and the public is now aware of those upcoming public meetings, or publicly accessible meetings, I guess would be a more appropriate term.
Just a correction, that was the irregular meeting on May 10th, Mayor Creasy.
Oh, okay, just gonna ask.
Thank you very much. I've got committee in my notes, and I questioned that, but so all three are regular?
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't think that we have missed any business. We do have a couple of in-camera items. Is there anything that we need to go through prior to that motion? If not, Councilor Hibbs.
I'll move that we go in camera, please.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Let the record reflect that we move to in camera